But suddenly, over the past 2 weeks, local models have become all the rage at the moment. Everybody's talking about local models. Everybody wants to use local models, especially now more than ever, because suddenly people have realized, oh, how much money am I spending on tokens? Oh, X billion dollars. Great. Amazing. Human beings are cheaper, and we're talking about it, but the human beings also are addicted to the slot machine of using AI. So now they're like, "Oh, I can use local models, and I can do this," right? And it's so interesting to me personally because it takes me back to um Bitcoin mining days. Like, oh, what do I need to run this? Oh, I just need a computer, which powerful enough. Oh, amazing,
Mhm.
lovely, and that's free money for me. Great, awesome. Let me do that. And now it's the same thing with local models. But I think more than anybody else, especially the vantage point that we guys have is of privacy, of encryption, of security, and how important that is. And I think more and more companies are realizing, oh, we really need to be extremely careful about how we're using these models, what data we're giving access to them, and then what kind of output we're getting out of it. And local models is a perfect antithesis to that. So I want to know your guys' thoughts. Like, if using and setting up local models was as easy as using Claude Code, would you completely shift over for maybe, let's say, a 30% dip in the smartness of the model, or would you still stick with Claude?
I think it depends on the work you're doing.
Mm,
I think the thing we have to so number one, I think it makes a lot of sense that people are shifting towards local models, but I think the thing we have to and part of it is we have to recognize, like, I remember, I lived in New York during like peak VC D2C days. It's actually kind of where I cut my teeth in my career. And like, and this was also early days of Uber too. And I remember like it used to be in Manhattan. You take an Uber from like Upper West Side down to downtown, and it'd be like $4 or $5. Those economics never made sense. And the only reason we were able to do that was because the VCs were funding all of it. Right. And that went on for like 5, 6 years. And eventually the VC, they were like, wait, this startup actually needs to make money. It needs to be profitable. And then they just stopped subsidizing all the costs. And suddenly, and now you're in Manhattan and it's like at least $20 to go like 3 blocks. It's insane. The math is not mathing, or maybe it is, and that's just inflation, right? But the point here is we're seeing the exact same thing with tokens, right? Because as we know, venture capital, investment, public markets, all these things, like, all the investments going into AI. And that's why, like, when we use Claude Code or Codex or whatever the hell you're using, um, that subscription you're paying, and you're like, oh man, 300, $400, it's expensive. But what I think most people don't recognize is like that's actually very cheap because the amount of usage you're getting for that subscription and the tokens you're getting is massively subsidized. So all this to say is like I think local models are going to get make more and more sense. I think the analogy I've been using for the past couple months, or maybe not past couple months, past couple weeks to 2, 3 months, is like where we are right now is every AI company that's developing an LLM or a model of any kind, they're just trying to build better engines, but they're supposedly better, faster, cheaper engines. But the reality is like at some point, I agree. Like we are going to need local models, but the local models will be good enough, right? Like this stuff only gets better. So imagine 1 to 2 years, you shouldn't have the hardware requirements or the software requirements to even get to basically get the same level of quality you have today. And so I think it'll be like this never ending arms race. And it'll just be like, how easy is it going to be for people to run it locally? And what are the trade offs? I don't know if it was, someone was talking about privacy, right? But like having a local model, having the privacy, being able to do it offline. So basically both, I guess. Like we'll have more local models. They will be offline and more private. They'll be probably just as smart as Opus today, but people will still obviously, that doesn't mean we're not going to be subscribing and paying for the other things. But I think it'll
yeah,
just be
but
depending on what the use case, you know?
yeah, no, I agree, and I think what I struggle with is just because you could do something doesn't mean you should do something. And also, like with a lot of these models, what becomes extremely tricky is for a non-technical, non-developer person. to really
Mhm.
be able to gauge which model is better for which specific use case. I mean, it's pretty much trial and error at this point because the
Mhm.
models keep changing, models keep improving, degrading. I mean, at this point, there's also I was just reading about it that there's a difference in the time that you use the model. So if you use Claude
Yeah, I
code
saw that.
at
I saw that. Yeah, yeah.
you use Claude code at 2 p.m., it's going to be dog shit. But if you use it at 2 a.m., oh my god, it's a genius, right?
Yeah, I
The
saw
It
algorithm.
also
just a
depends. No, I
No,
just wanted to
please.
say it also depends like what is your benchmark for what's good and what's not. Something that's
mm,
good for me will not be good for you. I mean, obviously if you're just coding, it's like it works and it's great, right? But at the same time, for me, something that works and is great for some small workflow would be dog shit for like a proper developer who would see so many holes in how the script is executed that it's not, you know, efficient enough. So I think it's all subjective, to be honest. And I have a local model. I happen to have a local model because I happen to have a fiance that's super deep into this. And I have no idea like how it was set up. I just know that I can use it and it's great. But it's quite capable in like running day-to-day tasks of like, for example, scraping the performance of things that I need or doing some research or, drafting like emails, let's say, or and things like that. Would it be able to it actually coded a game, like a GeoGuessr style game.
Mhm,
So it
mhm.
is quite solid, I would say. Yes, it might not be able to execute like super complicated workflows, but it's only going to get better at the end of the day. So yeah,
Yeah, I also
that's
think
my two
about
cents.
with the Anthropic's Fable ban and
mhm,
like the government taking more and more control over the publicly available frontier AI models. I think about
mhm,
if tomorrow, if my company depends upon Fable being available, and Fable's one example, right? It could be any model, and I'm dependent upon it, or I have like 50 workflows working on that specific model.
mhm,
I am heavily reliant on that company not screwing up, the model
mhm,
working, the cost being low, the privacy factor being taken care of, and nothing to go wrong. So the
mm,
level of dependencies you've built on it. I mean, it's not. I mean, you can make the case that your companies are also reliant on CRMs functioning or like
yeah,
other tools functioning. Fair, but a CRM doesn't get banned by the government. Like
mhm,
by the nature of what these AI companies have sold, now it's become the case that, oh, I built this application using the Fable model and I was using API keys for that, and now it's gone. Or I'm in India and it's only available to US citizens. Like
yeah,
the models become, at least the frontier models become better, the
yeah.
more of an arms race it becomes.
I
And it
completely agree
seems
with you.
like I
Yeah,
think it also seems like the West and the East have taken completely different paradigms towards it, where the
mhm,
West wants to be, more gatekeeping, more okay, put
yeah,
bans on it, don't let people use it. Whereas China's like open source everything. Like get it in the hands of as many people as possible. And of course, they might have incentives towards doing that, but it's also a factor of from a company standpoint, if my usage is good enough with a local model, I'm going to be more and more inclined to do that because I have a significant amount of control over the kind of output that I'm getting, which I'm not going to be getting
mm.
with a frontier model now. So it's a food for thought.